my crafty friends, it's Lesley from HungryHeffyCrafts, and thanks for watching another one of my card making tutorials. And today I am focusing on a stamp set from My Favorite Things. It's called Beast Friends and it has the most adorable little Yeti monster beast little critter guys. I don't really know what they are, but they are so adorable. And I'm going to be creating a card today which is mostly watercoloring. So this is actually a one layer card, so that means there's no dimension to the card. Everything has been created on one layer of cardstock. So you can see here I've got a piece of cardstock that is a 5.5 by 4.25 inch cardstock. It is one of the Ranger watercolor distress watercolor cardstock pieces. I chose that today because I really like the fact that it's bright white and it is a watercolor cardstock, which is perfect for my watercolor technique today. In the middle and across the length of my card, you may notice some white areas there. That's because I've used some masking paper to mask off two areas on my card. First of all, I used a scalloped circle die to cut out a small scalloped circle for the center of my card, and then I just cut a strip to go along at the bottom section, which would be for my greeting. Now the masking paper that I have is actually more of a plastic, so the mask is in place at the moment even though it looks bright white. But you can get also masking paper, which just looks like paper on the card, and of course the ink will actually stick to that and go on that. Whereas my plastic mask, it resists the ink. So if you're doing this and you have slightly different masking paper, don't worry if it looks slightly different. I've used some of the smaller images from that Beast Friends stamp set from My Favorite Things just to create a background on my card. And after I stamped them using Memento Tuxedo Black ink, I went over the whole cardstock with a little distress ink so that I could have some color on the background. Then I took my watercolor set, and for this I'm using the Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolor set and a number 4 round brush, and I'm painting each of those little images. I did actually splatter the whole project with some paint drops as well, just to have a little bit of visual texture. And once that was dry, I peeled off the mask and I used the distress ink. It's the tea dye ink from Ranger to stamp this cute little critter, which has a scarf and he's holding a mug of cocoa, and it's adorable. But because I've stamped it in a really light color, you can't really see it even on the camera, even though I've zoomed in for you guys here. But that's the whole point of the no line coloring technique. The line is barely there, so it's enough for you to use your paintbrush and to use the lines as a guide. But once you have finished adding all the paint to your project, it doesn't look like a stamped image at all. It looks like a hand-drawn illustration. So you get to cheat and pretend that you're actually much better at illustrating than you are. But I think it looks really cute. So I'm using my watercolors. Like I said, it's the Kuretake Gansai Tambi one that I've got here. And to the side, I'm using a palette to mix some colors. Now, a week or so ago, I shared a card which had a little owl on it, and I used some coloring pencils to create a really soft storybook look to my stamped image. And I'm pretty much doing the same thing here, but instead of coloring pencils, I'm using my paint. So to give the illusion of texture, I'm using little small strokes with my paintbrush, and it helps that there is a nice pointy tip on this paintbrush here, so I can get nice fine lines on there. And this card, it did take a while, because with watercolors the trick is in layers. You build up the layers, and that's really what gives that cohesive and professional look to the whole project. So once I've added most of the colour in that I wanted to have, I decided that each of my elements would look good with a little bit of shading and an outline. So for the scarf, I'm using some green just to outline it, and you can see the feet as well have a little bit of a darker outline. And I'm going back in now to do all the other elements just so they really pop and each of the edges of my critter are nice and defined. To add a little bit more shading, I'm using some watered down black paint around the edges and in behind the cup, underneath the cup, anywhere there may be a natural shadow for my little critter here. And with the variation in shadows, that's what really brings the whole thing to life. I just think these stamps are so adorable. And at the end of the video, I'll share with you another project that I made using the same stamp set, but one of the other little critters. So once I was happy with the actual beast, I came back in with a little paint to create a shadow underneath him. So it looked like he was sitting on the floor, not just floating in the middle of the card. And then, of course, he also needed a little blush in his cheeks because I really think that brings the whole critter to life. It makes it really cute. So to do that, I take some clean water and just wet the face where I want the cheeks to be. And then I dilute down some red paint and drop that into those areas. It gives them really subtle. You can barely see it on the video, but in real life you can see it. I thought it would be also kind of fun to add texture to the hat because there's a lot of texture in the scarf and on his fur. So I added some fluffy bits to the hat. And of course, to finish off this cute little guy, I added his mouth and his eyes as well. And I used the stamp as a guideline to where I wanted those to be. So when that was dry, I was able to remove my mask at the bottom and remove my whole piece of paper from the board and bring it over to my MISTI so I can stamp my greeting. I stamped the greeting from the stamp set. It says, "Are you Yeti for Christmas?" It's cute. I stamped that using Sparrow ink from Simon Says Stamp. It's a brown ink, but it's a very grey, kind of a dark grey brown. And I thought it worked really well with this project today. So I finished off with some gel pen on the Santa hats and some dot detail around the scallop circle. But I also wanted to show you this guy. I made it in exactly the same way. I stamped it with some light ink and then used my paints to colour him in. And I just think he is adorable. And I made him into a tag. Here's a little close-up so that you can see the card. And here's some other projects of mine. If you want to check them out, you can click right on the boxes there. Thank you so much for watching, and you can follow me over on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and of course here on YouTube. Please click to subscribe and leave a like or a comment. That'd be great. Happy crafting. Bye!